Obviously, not the result that any of us expected or anticipated, but or planned for. But there were a lot of positives to build on. But there were certainly mistakes that need to be corrected if we're going to get to where we all want to get and where we all know that we can get to. But I told the team yesterday, the fastest way to failure is to play in fear of failure. And I think, our guys, in talking to a lot of the players on the team, they've never been so invested in something for so long. And, quite frankly, I think a lot of them, tried to be perfect. They tried to, squeeze too hard, if you will, and they didn't cut loose and play, the way that they had hoped that they played. And so we've got to figure out a way as coaches to make sure that this week and ensuing weeks that we take the training to the field on game day, because there were, quite frankly, there were things that happened on Saturday that we as coaches hadn't seen since spring ball. Mistakes and habits and techniques that had been corrected and had been, what we thought were ingrained into habit, and they showed back up at times, very inopportune times on Saturday. So we got to do a really good job of figuring out as coaches how to make sure that doesn't happen again. But we're excited. The team is disappointed, certainly. We all are, fans, students, players, but nobody's more disappointed than our players and coaches. But we can't let disappointment turn into distraction. We've got to focus on preparing to win a game this week, and that's what we're going to do. And we can't let Maryland beat us twice. And I don't think it will. I think our guys, after watching that video, there was a lot of aha moments, I think, and some really good teaching and learning opportunities. You'd rather those come with the final score being different than what it was, but if you're going to lose, you better learn from it, and I think we're well on our way to doing that. Injury update: Shane Buechele has a bruised throwing shoulder, so he will not practice tomorrow, and we will evaluate him throughout the week. Questions?
Tom, you felt so confident about some of the team's abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you, and I'm no psychologist, but it seemed like you were genuinely shocked afterwards. Where was the disconnect, do you think, from what you felt and then what you saw?
The best way that I know right now, having only been whatever it is, 48 hours removed from it, is there was a lot of trying too hard. I think that's real. I think that when you're trying to be perfect in this game, you wind up being a step late to everywhere you're going, because you're evaluating, you're tiptoeing, you're figuring things out. You want to be so right. Is this the right way or is that the right way? And next thing you know, yeah, you might have gone the right way, but now you're a step or two too late. And so I think one of the, we got to be a lot more reckless, and I think, getting back to your psychology question, I think that genuinely comes when you trust what and how you've been coached, and so that there is no more thinking. This is the way to do it. There is no other way to do it. And I think when I said there's some aha moments, I think that's the biggest one for a lot of our players is, aha, now I get it. Now I get it. Now I see that if I just cut loose and trust the way that I've been coached, I make that play. Whereas I didn't on Saturday because I was a step too late, because I was feeling around and thought the back might cut back, or I thought the guy I was supposed to block might wrong arm me, or whatever the case may be. Is don't think and trust so that you can play without hesitation.
Coach, when you're talking about the whole psychological thing with this team, a team not like you saw from the jump, it's not used to winning. It's there have been some patterns there. How delicate is the balance of showing them that, hey, get the head up? Are you seeing the right things, I guess, from them after yet another loss?
I am, and I saw it on Saturday during the game. To be honest with you, I thought our internal / mental emotional response to adversity was fantastic. I really do. I've had numerous players tell me that, Coach, in years past, had we gone down 27-7, there'd be a lot of guys that probably folded up their tents and went home, and that thing could have gotten ugly. And into the fourth quarter, I was walking up and down the sideline, and guys were. I remember Gerard Hurd vividly, still with like 6-7 minutes to go. He looks me right in the eye and he says, "Coach, we're going to win this game." I said, "I know we are." I knew it when we kicked it off. No, we didn't, and so that's where I'm headed to here is that. So I think the internal and emotional response was fantastic, and I think they believe in that. We've got to find a way then to take the next step in putting that response into physical action and being where we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be there every single time. And so that's the next step. But the first step, that's a big one. That's a big one around here. And so and then coming in yesterday, this was a really, really somber place for most of the day yesterday, and it should be. I'd be really, really worried if guys weren't really sad and upset and hurt, and they were, but we came out, we practiced last night, and we put the Maryland game to rest. Certainly not the lessons that we learned, but put the game to rest and moved on to prepare for San Jose.
Tom, is it a little or a lot that needs to be fixed? How much of it involves personnel changes? And would you do anything different? Any decisions made either before, during, after the game?
Yeah, I'm seeing it reading on the camera too.
No, I think we've got a saying in this program, we ain't changing, and we're not going to ever be too stubborn to not realize when change is necessary. But I don't think when you're selling a vision and you're selling a culture and you're selling a way of doing things, that the first hiccup is not to panic. The first hiccup is not to press eject. The first hiccup is not to just fire people from their jobs, or fire players from their spots on the depth chart. That's just we got to coach them better. They got to learn, and we got to teach. And because we know our way works, we've just got to do a better job of teaching it, and our players got to do a better job of taking that teaching to the game field. So no, we're in this for the long haul, and there's going to be some bumps along the way, and we need to make sure that we stay consistent.
Tom, can you just expand a little bit about what happened to Bouchel? How serious do you think that is? What that does to your depth chart this week?
certainly doesn't help the depth chart. I think it was on one of the
Yeah, man, I don't know.
break contained passes that
My camera here.
I think he threw it away and was getting hit as he threw it away and just fell on it pretty hard. Now he doesn't remember the exact play. We think we kind of found the one on film, but obviously we're not sure. And the kid finished the game, and at one point I think, John, you said 12 consecutive completions or something like that. So he woke up in a lot of pain. I mean, I'm not going to discount that, but this wasn't a deal where it was the last play of the game and he didn't go back in. This was something where he was able to finish the game, and the doctors have said that rest is the best option right now, and just to kind of keep evaluating it every 24 hours or so. And so that means tomorrow Sam will get the bulk of the reps with not the bulk, he'll get the reps with the ones, and then we'll have to move Gerard back there to kind of do double duty a little bit, but he'll get a lot of reps at the 2 quarterback spot, and then but still get some of his reps at receiver.
But following that same train of thought, Coach, do you have like a day in mind where you would like to know if Shane can go, and you definitely have to go with Sam, and along those lines, do you feel like Sam is ready to start a game if you guys need to play him on Saturday?
I don't know that a day. I mean, Shane's our starting quarterback, and so if he can play, he's going to play. If he can play and not to the detriment of his team, then he's going to do that. And is Sam ready? No, not right now, but he will be. He's close. He's as close as any true freshman I've ever been around, and so I think him getting these reps this week will he'll respond. I mean, he'll be ready.
Hi, Tom. So as far as guys thinking too much, it seemed like fundamentals really broke down as part of that. What's the process then like of trying to kind of reinstill those in your players? And is this process that you really thought you would have to do again during the season?
No, it's not. It's 9 months of training. And again, I mean, we have scrimmaged them ad nauseum. We have done more live tackling, on defense and all that than as much as anybody in the country. And so, and these things, they weren't there. I mean, we had genuinely thought we had rid ourselves of a lot of these problems. So, no, I didn't think we'd be here, but we are, and that's okay. I think that the biggest thing is one, as you start to game plan for a specific opponent, just because of sheer hours and minutes in a practice, sometimes some things, such as individual and fundamental periods, kind of go away, and so we got to make sure that we don't ever lose those periods and really kind of get back to those fundamentals. And then I think these kids are pretty smart kids. This is as bright of a group as I've been around. I think just the reminder of what can happen if you don't do it this way will mean a lot, and just hey, now we've talked all week, let's go out and execute our fundamentals, stick our foot in the ground, don't think, and just play, and hopefully that'll trigger in their brain and their reflexes to say, oh yeah, I remember doing it the other way, and that way stunk. That way felt really bad. So let's go do it this way.
Back middle, Steve. Coach, you left here last week talking about how you thought the strength of your team was your offensive and defensive lines. They both got manhandled pretty well Saturday night. Of course, Maryland is a good team. Can you talk about that a little bit more, where you got to improve?
Yeah, I didn't. Manhandled wouldn't be the adjective that I use, but you know, I think we only handed the ball to our running backs 14 times. We got to do a better job of establishing the run game. Now, obviously, it's difficult when you fall down by 20 points in the second quarter. Changes your thought process a little bit. And then, only one or two of the sacks were really an offensive line breakdown. So I feel certainly not great. I mean, we've got a long way to go, and the entire team needs to improve. But to single those two position groups out, I think, would be a bit rash.
Tom, when you have things you need to fix and you're in game mode and you're preparing as well as practicing, are some things just harder to fix during the week of a game as opposed to during camp, now that you see it on film?
I don't think so. I think
Yeah, it sounds like three's the one we're having issues with.
I think our problems aren't. It's nothing that's not fixable, I guess, and so, and it's nothing that's certainly not fixable in a game week or in a day or two. I mean, it's just a constant repetition until, it becomes habit.
Tom, a lot of what you're saying sounds like it's mental things that need to be fixed. As a coaching staff, how do you walk that fine line between the pressure you have to administer for expectation and then wanting them to play free without restraints?
It is I appreciate you asking that. I mean, that is a big balancing act, and one that, as coaches, quite frankly, we've been doing all our lives. We've chosen this profession. They're 18 to 22-year-old, fragile young men that need very high expectations put on them and be held to those expectations, but also when they fail to meet them, they need to be taught how better to meet them, and not just yelled at, and not just, hey, you didn't do it. Well, I know, Coach. Tell me how to do it. I didn't mean not to do it. I want to do it. Teach me how to do it. And so, that's a big balancing act, but one that at the end of the day, if you love your players the way that we love our players, and they love you in return, I think, and this is a good thing, I think our players were more disappointed that they let our coaches down than the fans, than their parents, than their brothers and sisters, girlfriends, whoever. And that's a really good start when players don't perform well and they feel bad for the people that they're invested in this with. That's really good.
Tom, you expressed how you want to be a physical team, but you only had 14 carries by your two main running backs. Do you lack faith in the running game? And with Shane's injury, are you scared this could be a fragile team right now?
Fragile mentally, yeah, certainly. We're not fragile physically, if that's what you mean with the injury. No way. No,
Yeah, man, it's so weird 'cause I definitely see
our guys
it
are in
registering.
very, very, very good condition. And then as far as the run game, no, I think, as evidence, we were seeing a lot of one high coverage with a extra defender in the box to take away the run game, and obviously, and then we fell down 20 points in the second quarter. So I think the defense and the circumstances of the game dictated that more than any kind of faith that we have in the run game. I believe that, being a balanced offense, which is what we want to be, does not mean we want to throw it 40 times a game and run it 40 times a game. It means we want to be able to win the game on offense the way the defense dictates us. And felt like our offensive staff did a good job of adjusting to the circumstances and to the fronts and coverages that they were seeing.
Early in the fourth quarter, you guys had that 4th and 2 on the 44 and went for it. I'm curious what went into that decision. Did you think about punting there and trying to pin them deep? And then I guess the bigger part of the question is, you went for 2 earlier in the third quarter. You went for it on 4th down 4 times. Is that more the aggressive nature of your style, or is that something just was situational in those?
Both. I think, if you go back in our history, we've gone for it quite a bit on 4th down, one of the tops in the country, and so much so that in fact it's kind of funny that in game 1 it came up so many times. We actually invested in a service that does all these analytics, and we've got a binder up in the press box that tells you quarter by quarter, score by score, and then field position. It's dark green if it's yes, you should go for it. Light green if it's think about it. Yellow, probably not. And red, don't even think about it. And so we went for it without me hearing what the guys were saying that the binder said to do. But going back after the game, on all 4 of them, the binder said we should do it. So they were all dark green. Now we got to do them better, obviously, or else the binder is going to start saying not to do them. So that's it's a part of who we are. It's a part of especially in the Reds. I mean, I can't stand 20-yard field goals. Now there's a time and a place for them, but if you get inside the 5-yard line and you got 3 or 4 downs to get it in, and we don't, then we got bigger problems than just kicking field goals. So, the metrics say to go for it in those situations, and we've got to have a much better plan, though, for how to convert those.
Was there consideration on there on that?
No. Mm-mm.
Coach, your team held Maryland to just 3 incompletions on Saturday. How concerned are you about the secondary, especially considering the caliber of quarterbacks you're going to have to face moving forward?
I'm not. I don't think my concern at that position group is any more glaring than in any other one. So we didn't play good in a lot of areas against Maryland, and secondary certainly one of them, but not a cause for any kind of major concern.
Coach, what did you make of the performances of Holton Hill and Reggie Hemphill-Maps, especially considering what was going through their mind with their families back in Houston?
Yeah, I thought it was really good, especially for Holton, who has had a bit of an up and down career here so far. And it was pretty neat. After the game, he hugged me and was kind of choked up and said, "Coach, thank you for believing in me." And again, we didn't win, which we all wanted to, but to see him have that kind of renewed sense of self-pride and self-worth was pretty cool. And then, yeah, Reggie, went from, we didn't know where his grandpa was for a while, actually, and his grandpa actually had to be rescued from on top of a car by a boat. So Reg had gone through some tough stuff over the course of a few days, and really responded well, and I think the future is bright for both those kids.
Coach, the punting was really, really good. Field goals not so good. Did the film tell you anything about the missed field goal and the blocked field goal ran back for a touchdown?
Yeah, the miss, yeah, again, it's that kid has been really, really good in training camp. I mean, really good. And I don't know if it was a trying too hard thing or not, but he actually kind of clipped the grass or the turf right before. I mean, this he's kicked how many balls in his life that his leg swing is automatic, and for some reason he clipped the turf right underneath it and kind of popped it up and shanked it. And then the one we got to do a better job, obviously interior at the guards. That's become, now that you can't jump, and now that really coming off the edge and a lot of the formations that people use to kick field goals, it's kind of almost impossible. Really the only place to block a field goal is up the middle. And so we've got to do a much better job solidifying that. But our kicker needs to do a better job of getting the ball up, too. It's a bit of a low kick for a guy that's just to be standing and be able to do this. Now, he shouldn't have been as far back as he was, but still to be able to do that and block a kick, we need to get more height on it. But we got one too, which was a good thing. And you can see that in today's college football, that's getting a lot of pressure up the middle is really the only way to do it.
Didn't see Kendall Moore's name on the participation report, so I was just kind of wondering what your thoughts about the tight end position is right now, and how you thought Garrett played on Saturday.
Garrett played okay. Better or worse than most on offense, but I think we do. We talked about it today in game planning. We need to jog Kendall in a little bit maybe, and probably the best run blocker of the three guys right now, and run behind him maybe a little bit in this game, and get him involved in the run game a little bit. So I would imagine you'll see him a lot more this week.
Coach, did it bother you at all to see people throwing things on the field, towards the end of the game of your first game and booing? And what's your message to a fan base that experienced a lot of losing and seems to be pretty deflated after that Maryland game?
Yeah, I mean, they're disappointed. We are too, and nobody more so than the players and coaches that are fully invested in this. I thought, and maybe I was wrong, that they were upset at a call or two by the officials. But in any case, yeah, I think the rules committee has actually put a large emphasis on that this year, that we can actually be flagged for a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for our fans if once they're warned, if they don't stop. And so I get it. You're disappointed. You want the Longhorns to win and do well, and so do we. And but hopefully we won't have that issue again, because we won't give them, us or the officials, give them that much cause for disappointment. But two, we've also got to be smart and know that they could be costing their team a pretty sizable penalty. But three, I think the biggest one is that, as I said post game, this is a process, and we're in this thing for the long haul. And these 9 months of training wasn't just to beat Maryland. This was to instill and solidify a culture and a way of doing things and an attitudinal shift that I feel like we're on our way. Did I think we were ahead of where we showed on Saturday? Yeah, I did, and hopefully we'll show that this week.
Two questions. One about non-defensive run fits. You mentioned that on the conference call. Did you think it was situations where either the linemen or the linebackers were either out of position or missed tackles? What was your takeaway?
All of the above. Yeah, there was one third down, because it was third and extra long, and we jogged in our pass rush team, and they ran a little quarterback run that got us. But beyond that, you know, there wasn't any time where we said, oh, look at that, you know, Coach Orlando or defensive staff, you don't have enough guys there, or you're not, the call isn't sound against what they're running. It's, Coach Orlando, you need to get your guys clued into how to play the call and how to play the play that is trying to be executed against that call. And so we'll get there. The kids see that, and but we were never outmanned per se, or didn't have enough bodies.
And then I guess this is a housekeeping issue. You know, for as long as I can remember, Texas has made the offensive play caller available to the media after games. We were told that neither coordinator will be available after any game this year. What's the thinking behind that?
The thinking behind that is that the decisions ultimately go through me, and that
at least he hasn't really made the call yet, but 2 people still have the mics.
you're never going to get me to throw a player under the bus or throw a coach under the bus. The responsibility with the team as a whole lies with the head coach, and I thought about it, but I just think right now, especially headed in the direction that we're headed, you know, I think one singular message needs to be there. Maybe at some point in the future we will, but right now I think the message definitely needs to be from me.
Tom, going back to special teams real quick, kind of two questions. One, the issue with fielding kickoffs. I know you guys kind of got field position issues with some of the post-play penalties, but how do you remedy that with the issues fielding kickoffs? And then two, what was your take on some of the newcomers? Because it seemed like guys like TQ and Bimage kind of gave you some juice on kick coverage and kick.
Yeah, it was. We catch kickoffs every day, and you know, that the guy was doing a really good job of putting them in kind of the no man's land area of, is it a you call, a me call, is it the up back, is it me, is it the off returner? It's not an excuse. We've definitely got to do a better job with that, but you know, I think the only, I was surprised, one, and then two, I think the only way to remedy that is we got to give them more unconventional kicks, I guess, in practice, so that we're working those very rare instances more often. And yeah, guys like Bimage and Gary Johnson, especially on kickoff coverage, I was happy. You know, we're going to need some of those young guys. Josh Thompson is another one to help us a lot on those special teams units.
Tom, revisiting one of your earlier comments about felt like players.
No, two left, including this one. So this one and one more.
Was there any point where you felt like you were trying to prove something, and this is your first game here? Was there any internal pressure that you felt like you had to do something?
No, and you know, credit to Mike Perrin and Greg Fenves. You know, I feel very confident that those two men, my bosses, have complete confidence in us and the way that we're doing things here, and a very, very clear understanding that this is a marathon and not a sprint. So I think, had the case been different from the leadership that governs me, I think maybe that might be the case, but
cool. And then, yeah,
knowing that those two guys are you know, with me along this journey, certainly allows me to not feel any kind of extra internal pressure or angst or anything like that. You know, we want to win, but we also want to develop a championship program here that's built for the long run.
Last one, Roger.
Tom, you guys go back to work last night and wash it away. You do have a game Saturday against San Jose State, a team that's going to be excited to come in and play in front of some fans, and they jumped on South Florida. I mean, is that one of the hurdles, is stop feeling sorry for yourself? We got another game to get ready for?
Yeah, it is. And we do play a game this week, don't we? I appreciate you recognizing that. Yeah. I think our guys are, they're kids, and as big as Texas football can become, they've been doing this a long time. They've lost football games before in their life. So have I. And we've always had to get up and go play the next week. So we kind of know how to do that. We understand and believe that one game is not going to define our season. There's, how many examples do you need of, I gave one right after the game. We came home to Columbus, Ohio in 2014 for our home opener and got our butts kicked by Virginia Tech. Butts kicked. And that team became closer. And that's what I told our guys yesterday in a team meeting. I said, losses have one of two effects. They can bring you closer or they can splinter you apart. And it's all about the choices and the decisions that you make on how you're going to take that loss. And so, very well documented, that team went on to win the national championship. Mac Brown started off 1-2 in his career here, and wound up doing pretty good here at Texas. I think Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe in his first season at Alabama. So it happens when you're trying to build something. But we've got to do a phenomenal job of not forgetting. When you say flush and all that stuff, I think that's accurate, that you can't let the disappointment linger, but you have to learn, and those lessons have to be real, and you have to be reminded of what can happen if you don't, if you don't put your plan into action, and don't do things the way that you've been taught to do them. Then, hey guys, remember this. Yeah, you don't want to completely forget it. You want to learn the lessons, but I think our guys are really focused this week, and it's been really, really cool to see, on Labor Day, their day off from school and day off from football, any mandatory activities. I've walked by a ton of guys that are in the training room, that are watching film on their own, that are in the weight room getting stretched. Just guys being pros and taking care of their bodies and their mind and ready to take the next step. And so that's been really, really cool to see the influx of guys that have come just to get their extra voluntary work in.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.